All right, so I've got my trusty stopwatch, and here they come down the hill. It looks like Ruben is in the lead, and here comes out. And this
myself.
Oh yes, I could not resist that last one. Like every time I've watched that video 10 times and more. I mean, well, probably more than 10, probably like 100, and I laugh every time he shoots himself. I shouldn't laugh when people shoot themselves, right? But it's hilarious. Listen, if this is your first week in the last couple of weeks, we're in week 3. We're in our last week of this series called Stupid. Everybody say it with me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Stupid. All right, stupid. Because we all do stupid things. And I don't know if you're like me, but when I look back on my life, there are some things in life that I wish I just had a do-over. Do you ever wish you could go back in time? Like, probably everybody in that video wishes, like, just before I climbed up those trash cans, all right? Or just before I stood on that rail and I tried to do a flip off, or just before I pulled that gun, I really wish I would have. And a lot of times, when we think about our lives, we wish we could go back in time and think, I really wish I could get a do-over. Like maybe if somebody had just told me, or maybe if they told me if I had just listened to them, I would not have hurt myself. I would not have hurt somebody else in my life. For me, those times that I wish I could go back and do a do-over, they really just have 2 categories, right? For me, most of the time, it falls into 1 of 2 categories. Either it has something to do with money, it's a financial decision, like buying a new car and financing it for however many years you have to finance it for, right? To get that payment just right, and you realize 7 years later your car is worth nothing, right? And or borrowing money to go to law school, for instance. Maybe not borrowing quite as much money that I'll still be paying for when my son starts college. That kind of thing. Sometimes it's money. I wish I could go back and do some things over again. Sometimes it's relationships. I mean, I never want to go back and do over my relationship with my wife, right? I mean, like, that's the relationship that, thank God I wasn't stupid, and thank God that she was, right? And she said I did, okay? I mean, I never want to redo that one, okay? But there are times when I've hurt people, or I've been hurt by people, and I wish that sometimes I had listened to people in my life. And when you think about those do-overs, those times, like, there's something in your mind that you wish you could go back and do again. I wonder if, like, just maybe there's an occasion that comes back to mind. I wonder if there was somebody in your life, like oftentimes there were people in my life who were trying to speak into my life, that if I had just listened to them, I probably would not have hurt myself, or hurt my future, or hurt someone around me, or maybe I would not have been hurt if I had just paid attention to what somebody else was trying to tell me. A lot of times in life, our judgment gets a little bit clouded. Sometimes when we think about ourselves and our decisions, and maybe even where you are right now in life, sometimes it's not easy when you're in the moment to make the wise choice, right? I mean, oftentimes when we make stupid decisions, it's because in that moment, like, we were in a hurry, or our emotions are in high, or whatever, and we don't make good choices. And why is it that I know exactly what you should do, but you don't, right? I mean, as a pastor, I get paid every week to tell you what you should do, right? I mean, but have you ever thought about that about yourself? Why is it that you know exactly what one of your friends should do, but they don't? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Like, how is it that I'm so smart and everybody else around me is so stupid? You ever think that? I mean, like, every time I turn on the news or read news online or scroll through somebody's Facebook Facebook feed. You know, I think those things. And my guess is you probably think that sometimes, maybe not every day, but sometimes you have those same kinds of thoughts. Like, if they would just do this, if they would just fix this. I mean, as parents, here's the crazy thing. Our kids drive us insane sometimes, right? And sometimes we have no idea how to handle our kids. But yet we're sitting in McDonald's, or you're sitting at Chick-fil-A, or you're sitting wherever, and somebody else's kids are there and they're going crazy. All they need is a good spanking, right? Like, you know exactly how to fix their kids, but you're looking at your own like, I wish he'd just get off the phone, but I have no idea how to keep him from doing what he's doing, right? I mean, like, as parents, we do that. We do that in relationships. We do that with money. I mean, I can tell all of you without a doubt, how to handle your money. I mean, hire me as your financial advisor and I'll make you a fortune. I'm not rich. Like, for some reason, for me, my money, I mean, I manage it fairly well, but I make mistakes. You make mistakes. We do that in life. So why is it that I know everything? I know everything that you should do, but you don't. I think a lot of times when we make those decisions, when we're in life and we make some stupid choices, a lot of times it has to do with our emotions. And what I want to say this morning is that emotionally charged environments are not ideal for decision making. Emotionally charged environments are not ideal for decision making. Probably if you look back on that time that you wish you could do a do-over, emotions were running high. There was something that you really, really, really wanted, and you could care less what anybody else had to tell you. You could care less, even if somebody was trying to speak to you, you could just care less about that because the emotions were high. The felt desire, the passion was so strong that you just said yes, you just said no, you just signed on the dotted line, you just said, come on, get in the car, let's go. Whatever it was, you just made this decision and you ran after it. I know I've done that. We've probably all done that at least once. But emotionally charged environments, those times when emotions run high, when passions are wild, that's not the best time to make decisions. That's when we can't see what's going on around us, when we're not aware, or maybe we are aware, but our judgment has been clouded. See, what happens with emotion is it's kind of like this mist. It's like this fog that keeps us from seeing what it is that everybody else around us sees. Right? We're standing in the middle of the fog. We're standing in the middle of the fog and the mist of our emotions swirling around us. But our friends, they're on the outside. They see us in the fog. They see all the junk going around. And maybe they want to help us. And sometimes maybe they even try to, and we just don't listen. Right? But it's that emotion, it's that fog that keeps us from making wise choices sometimes. So we got to figure out how to cut through that fog. Like, there are things that we're going to do to make mistakes. If we don't plan in advance, we're much more likely to screw our lives up, to make stupid choices. But if in advance we make some decisions and we say, okay, when I'm in this again, right, based on my past experiences, my current circumstances, my future hopes and dreams, based on all that, when I'm in this again, here's what I'm going to plan to do. Listen. That's the main point this morning. All right? There's no sugarcoating. There's no dog and pony show. Like, this is the one point of the one-point message. Based on my past experiences, this is what I taught you last week. Based on my past experiences, my current circumstances, my future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing to do? When you ask yourself that question in an emotionally charged environment, what's the wise thing to do? It's listen. It's listen. It's listen. Because chances are somebody in your life knows what you should do when you don't. Chances are you've already got friends and family, co-workers, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your kids. You've got somebody in life around you who sees the fog that you're in and they see the way out. And either they're not telling you because they know you won't listen, or they did tell you and you just don't listen. Based on your past experiences, your current circumstances, your future hopes and dreams, as you are faced with a decision to make in an emotionally charged environment, what do you do to keep yourself from making the stupid mistake You listen. You listen. Wise people recognize that they need other voices in their lives. Now here's the thing. How do you get wise? You listen to other voices in your life. How do you get more wise? You keep listening. Right? I mean, that's the beginning of wisdom. The beginning of wisdom, Proverbs teaches us, is the fear of the Lord. Right? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. It's the root of knowledge and wisdom. It's how we relate to God. It's listening to God in our lives. But God gave us other voices. God gave you, like here, He gave you a church. He gave you a church that loves you. He gave you the church at Lake Forest and community groups and a pastor and other adults around you who sit and worship with you every week that love you and want to speak into your life if you make yourselves available. But wisdom comes from listening first to God and then to other people. So wise people, they understand that they need other voices in their lives. Now, we've been talking about the book of Proverbs, and we're going to get into Proverbs. But remember, who wrote Proverbs? Most of the Proverbs? What's his name? Solomon. He either wrote it, or he recorded it, or somebody else recorded it. You know, may not all be original to him. Yes, sir.
Your mic is dead.
My mic is dead.
Yeah.
All right. How about now? Apparently I turned it off. Boom. There we go. I just thought I didn't have it on. I appreciate it, Chad. All right. My bad. See, wise choices. Stupid people. I listened. He waved. It's like God up there. He waved. I listened. Wise people recognize that they need other voices in their lives. Right? Wise people recognize that. I need other voices. I need a little earpiece sometimes to turn the mic on. Right? Sometimes it's my mistake. Most of the time it's his, but you know. All right, Solomon. Solomon wrote Proverbs. Listen, Solomon is widely recognized as the wisest person who's ever lived, right? And as a matter of fact, that's how the Bible describes Solomon. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 4, we're not going to read a lot. I just kind of want to summarize a little bit for you. But it says this in verses 29, 30, and 31. This is kind of a summary for you. God gave Solomon very great wisdom. The Bible says that he was wiser than anyone else, and that kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon. Solomon had great understanding, great knowledge, great wisdom. And as he wrote Proverbs, because he's the wisest man and had more wisdom than anybody else, listen to what he says about wise people. And think about it, like when he says this, he's talking to himself. Not all these verses are going to be on the screen. I'm going to get to one in just a second. Just listen to some of these first. Proverbs 9:9 says, instruct the wise and they will be wiser. What should a wise person do? Listen to instruction. Solomon's saying that about himself, right? If I want to be wiser, I need to listen to instruction. Teach the righteous and they will learn even more. This is Proverbs 1:5. Let the wise listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance. What does a wise person do? Someone who already makes wise decisions, what do? They listen to guidance. They get wisdom from other voices. They keep getting wiser and wiser. 12:15 says, fools think their own way is right, but the wise listen to others. I mean, a wise person who has a history, like Solomon, of making good decisions. The gut instinct is, well, I mean, I've made so many good decisions in the past, right? I've made so many wise choices. I know more than everybody else does. I mean, after all, I'm Solomon. God gave me wisdom. I'm the wisest man in the world. Why should I listen to anybody else? And what Solomon says is, when you have that attitude, you're a fool. You are a fool. But wise people listen to others. 19:20 says, get all the advice and instruction you can, so you will be wise the rest of your life. In other words, never stop learning. If you want to be wise the rest of your life, and maybe you haven't been the first part, but if you want to be wise the rest of your life, never stop learning. Keep getting instruction and wisdom and knowledge. Keep listening. 13:10 says, pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. Do you see a pattern here? And this last verse we're going to put up on the screen. It's Proverbs 15:22. It says, plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. How many of you would like to be successful? Go ahead, raise your hands. That's like everybody. If you don't have your hand up, you're stupid. Okay? How many of you want to be successful? Okay, there's still a couple of stupid people here. That's okay, all right? Maybe you can just learn from our success. Listen, if you want to be successful, what does the Bible say to do? What does Solomon, the wisest man who's ever lived and arguably one of the wealthiest men who's ever lived, what does he say to do to be successful? Have many advisors. Don't just trust your gut, even if your gut is right almost all the time, because there's going to be that one time when it's not. There's going to be that one time when it's not. Get many advisors. That's where success comes from. Solomon would say, listen to other people. But something happened in Solomon's life. The wisest man that ever lived, arguably one of the most successful, one of the wealthiest, as he began his reign as king of Israel, he was the greatest king and is still one of the greatest kings that Israel has ever had. That's in 1 Kings chapter 4. You flip over to 1 Kings chapter 11, and depending on what translation you are reading, it may have the word now, but I really like I think it's the Good News translation or something like that. It uses the word but. But in 1 Kings chapter 11, there's a great big but in Solomon's life. And what you got to understand is that Solomon liked big butts and he could not lie. I mean, as you read 1 Kings chapter 11, I'm not going to read through it for homework. Go and read through it. What 1 Kings chapter 11 says about Solomon is, but he loved many foreign women. Big butts and he could not lie. I'm telling you, Solomon, the emotions, the passions ran high. He had hundreds of wives and concubines. He married the daughter of the Pharaoh of Egypt. He intermarried with nations that God said, Solomon and to all the Israelites, don't intermarry them. Not just as king, but like nobody, because they're going to tempt you to worship foreign gods. And Solomon stopped listening to his own advice. And it says in 1 Kings 11, verse 10, that God had warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods, but Solomon did not listen. I don't care how wise you are. When you stop listening, you all of a sudden become stupid. I don't care how wise you are, how many great decisions you've made in the past. If you want to be wise for the rest of your life, even if you've been wise for the first half of your life, like even if you're the kind of person who makes really good decisions most of the time, never stop learning. Never stop listening. Never stop taking the advice and counsel of other people. The greatest athletes of all times, what do they have? Coaches, mentors. A lot of them have personal one-on-one coaches. They pay big bucks for somebody to watch them, see how they play, see how they swing, see how they throw, whatever it is, and then give them advice on how they can become better. They never stop listening. If you want to stay wise for the rest of your life, never stop listening. Solomon's own foolishness eventually caused the nation of Israel to be fractured in two, and for many of the tribes of Israel to all but completely disappear off the face of the earth because of the decisions that Solomon made. His unwise choices at the height of his passions in an emotionally charged environment. When Solomon, without a doubt, knew better, because 1 Kings chapter 11 says, God specifically told him, don't do this. And Solomon went, and he didn't listen. And it destroyed a family, it destroyed a nation, ultimately, because Solomon didn't listen. So, in Solomon's life, this was super detrimental. The reality is, in our lives, it is too. Right? I mean, why is that? Why do we just shut people out? Right? And this isn't some great big question that I'm going to give you some great big, super answer to. It's just, it's amusing, it's a wondering. Why did Solomon allow that to happen? Why do we allow that to happen? You know, like when you're in a relationship, for instance, or maybe you've got a friend like this. Maybe this is somebody in the room, but you're in a relationship that you know is not good for you, right? You know it's not good for you. And other people in your life, they know it's not good for you. And they tell you. And you're just like, but I love it, right? I mean, I'm putting my foot down. Get out of my business, stay out of my life. You don't know you don't really know him like I know him, or her like I know her, right? But they're my friends, I've known them forever. But we have these relationships sometimes that we continue, even though everybody around us knows that they're bad for us. And if we were honest and objective, and we asked ourselves the wise question based on my past experiences with this group, or with this person, my current circumstances, my future hopes and dreams, what I want out of my life, because they don't want the same things, or he doesn't want the same thing. What's the wise thing to do? And we know, but we just don't listen. Why is that? Why is it that maybe you're in a relationship that's struggling, whether it's your kids or it's your spouse, and people around you, people at this church, they love you, they care about you. And they'll come up to you on Sunday and they'll say like, man, I just want you to know I'm praying for you. And you'll say something like, that's okay, that's great, because we all need prayer. But then when they come up to you and you say, hey, can we grab a cup of coffee and talk about it? You're like, no, because this is my life, not your life, right? When did it become okay to say, pray for me, just don't talk to me? When did that become okay? In life, outside of these four walls, and in life inside of these four walls. When did it be okay? When did it become okay to say, put the little prayer request on the wall, we'll have Miss Debbie or Miss Connie or somebody or the staff, they can pray for my request, but I just don't want to sit down and talk about it. It's not okay because it's stupid. God gave us, God gave me, God gave you other voices in your life who love you. For some of you, it's your parents. And no teenager wants to listen to their parents, myself included when I was a teenager. But for some of you, it's your parents. For some of you, it's your spouse. For all of us, it's our church. It's the Word of God speaking into our lives, saying, here's the wise thing to do. It's the people of God speaking wisdom into our lives, saying, you're in the middle of a fog. Your emotions are running high. The passions are crazy. I know you want it. I know you don't want it. I know you want to end it. I know you want to start it. I know you want something out of this. But here's what you don't understand. You're in the fog and you can't see your way out. And I love you, and the way out's right over here. Let me just lead you in that direction. When did it become okay to say, you can pray for me, but don't talk to me? It's not. It's stupid. And here's the reason why. It's a simple word. Pride. Pride. You see, success is intoxicating, right? And we want everybody to know, we'll put it on Instagram. My house looks nice. I want to take a picture and show everybody, right? My daughter loves to bake and she's baking cookies. I'm going to take a picture, and some of y'all saw that on Instagram or on Facebook, right? And we're on vacation. We take these whatever, and we have all these great quotes that we read, and we have these videos that we want to share. Success is intoxicating, but failure is humiliating. How often do you have this huge screw up and you just take a picture of it and say, I want to share this with everybody, right? Nobody does that. Nobody. Occasionally somebody will be like, well, I think this would be good to share so that you'll learn from my mistakes. But as a general rule, in the middle of things, we don't air our failures for the world to see. Why not? Because it's humiliating. And nobody likes to be humiliated. And when somebody walks up to you, regardless of what's going on in your life, and they see something unwise, they see something stupid. It may be immoral, it may not be. It may just be a dumb decision. But they see that and they call you on it. They say something about it. What hurts is the humiliation. It's not the love. Because most people, listen, some of us have people in our lives, they just pick on everything, right? They pick on everything. You can never make a decision good enough to impress them, good enough to make them happy. That's not who I'm talking about, okay? That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about people in your life, like your church family, who loves you, who cares about you. they're not speaking out of humiliation. They're speaking out of love. God did not want to humiliate Solomon. God loves Solomon. God loved his chosen people. He still does. God loves you. And he sent other voices into your life to speak into your life. We don't want to be humiliated, because here's the thing about humiliation. Whatever reminds me of my inadequacy, I will naturally resist, even if it's the solution. Right? I mean, that's why we don't post pictures and put them on Instagram of our failures. We don't want to be reminded of that. We want to be reminded of the good times. Right? If you've ever been to somebody's funeral, you don't have the guy up at the front like reading the eulogy of all the bad things that happened in their lives. Well, on September the 3rd, 2015, he did that. Like, nobody does that. When you sit around and you tell stories of the good times. That's what everybody wants to be remembered for, is the successes, not the failures. We naturally gravitate towards success. We naturally run from failure. And when somebody comes up and says they want to talk about it, they want to, and it's not prying, they love us, they want to help us in a direction, we naturally resist that. And here's the key: even if it's the solution. Even if it's this, and even if we know it's the solution, we will naturally resist it. Why? Because it highlights our failures. It tells us that we are wrong. It tells us that we are stupid. And nobody wants to admit that they've made a stupid decision. Nobody does. Proverbs 13:10, I read this a minute ago. We're going to put it up on the screen. Here's what it says. Pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. Pride leads to conflict. If you've got junk going on in your life, drama, for whatever it is, and you've planted yourself in the middle of that, and you're dug in, and you're like, man, my life is so bad because this is going on and that is going on, and there's all kinds of conflict in your life, take a self-check for just a moment and ask yourself, could it be my pride that has put me here? Is there somebody in my life, based on my past experiences, current circumstances, future hopes and dreams, who's been trying to tell me that I was going to get hurt? Because remember what we learned last week and the week before that? That the companion of fools suffers harm, right? I'm hanging around with people who are going to hurt me because they are doing foolish things. Even if every other area in my life I'm making the wise choice, but because I've connected my wagon to their wagon, when their wagon crashes, mine does too. They're going to hurt me. And for some of us, we're just making the stupid decisions. And why? Because we want what we want. We want what we want. Listen, we talked about it last week. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to be happy. And there are things that we do when our emotions are high, when passions are running crazy, that we think in the moment, this is going to make me happy. And we make a choice. But what we forget about is what comes next. Or what we ignore is the future hope and dream. And we sacrifice long-term, lifelong happiness for that fleeting happiness in the moment. That's what Solomon did. That's what Solomon did. And it wrecked his world. And it's all because of pride. Not listening to other people, because pride leads to conflict, and those who take advice are wise. So listen, if you find yourself in a hole right now, like you just, man, life is tough, and you feel like you're just struggling to get by, and you don't know what's going on in your life, the only way to dig yourself out of that hole, whether it's a relational hole, it's a financial hole, it's something at work, whatever the hole is, right? If you feel like you're in a hole, the only way to get yourself out is to not get yourself out. It's to invite somebody in with you to help you out of that hole. That's why God gave us people to listen to. Wise people know what they don't know, and they're not afraid to invite someone else in. Wise people know what they don't know, and they're not afraid to invite someone else in. Wisdom is not about knowing everything. Wisdom is not about having all the knowledge of the world, because none of us ever will, right? But wisdom is knowing, okay, so here's what I know and here's what I don't know, and I need people to help me with what I don't know. My life feels stuck right now. There's something crazy going on at work. There's something crazy going on in my family, my kids, my relationships, whatever that is. And I recognize it, and I don't know how to fix it. And instead of saying, I don't know how to fix it, so I'm just going to keep doing it the way I'm doing it, stupid. I don't know how to fix it, so I want to invite somebody else into my life. That's what a wise person does, based on my past experiences, my current circumstances, my future hopes and dreams. Listen. It's the one point of the one-point message, listen. And as a matter of fact, that's why we're going to do our very next series. I'm excited about it. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the series that we are launching next week. Take a look at the screen. Squad goals. On your way out the door this morning, grab some invite cards. It's been a couple months since we've had some. Grab some invite cards. Invite somebody next week, because here's what we're going to talk about. Your squad. Those people that you should be listening to. The goals that you should have. The friends who are part of your life. The community groups that you should be a part of. The reason that we're having a group leaders meeting next Sunday and the reason that we're having group link 2 weeks after that is because we believe that life is better connected. When you are connected to other people and you are listening to the wise advice around you, your life will go better. Based on my past experiences, current circumstances, future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing to do is to have a good squad and to listen to them. Proverbs 19:20 says this, listen to advice and accept discipline. And at the end, you will be counted among the wise. Listen to advice, accept discipline. And at the end, you will be counted among the wise. I don't know how your life has been going for the first however many years you've been alive, right? I don't know. I've been alive for 40 years, maybe alive for 40 more, right? I've made mistakes. I've made a lot of good decisions. I've made some bad decisions. Up to this point. At the end, I want to be remembered as a wise person. At the end, I hope people stand at my funeral and they talk about all the great things that I've done and all the influence that I've had and how much I meant in their lives. Like that's what I hope for. That there's a legacy that I'm leaving behind of wisdom in other people whose lives are changed. Again, not because I'm so great, but because I listened to God and I did what God wanted me to do. Because I listened to wise people in my life and I didn't screw things up. I didn't make stupid choices time after time after time, but I made the wise decision. And because my life has had some good decisions, that other people's lives have been influenced by me and their life has been made better. Hopefully, they've been introduced to Jesus because of the impact that I've had. At the end, I want to be counted amongst the wise. If that's you, you need some people in your life to help you make wise decisions. If you don't have those people, and even if you do, my encouragement to you is come to Group Link in a couple of weeks. Join a group. We're going to be talking more about that as we launch this next series, Squad Wars.